Okay, starting out very fast here. Feel free to slow the video down using YouTube settings. Pretty standard stuff, just 4 bolts to take the headlight off. This is one of the 2 main bolts that hold the bracket in. The other one, there's stuff in the way, so there I am removing the brake line bolt for ABS. These turn signals have a screw on the back of them to take them out. Unplugging the turn signals. There I'm getting the second main bracket holding bolt that everything kind of mounts to. Having to push on the handlebars to break it free. You'll feel it. So I just took both the bolts out that were finger tight at that point. Now trying to unsnake everything that's together. Kind of garbage camera work here. I mean, that's just a GoPro for you while doing this. Also a lot of guess and check. I wasn't really sure what to remove in what order. It's kind of why I'm making this video. Just so there's a point of reference. I was going in blind. So I was trying to get these clips out to the back, squeeze the point where they're pressed through. But I actually find out that you can just slide and lift up most of these connectors off of that bracket, the little plastic bracket. Yep, not really useful. Camera angles here, but I'll leave it. Show it all. That's where I realized you can just lift them up. Don't have to squeeze from the back. Or lift them off the bracket. The tab, I should say. You just kind of take one piece off, tug on it, see where it snags. Take that piece off, tug on it, repeat. So mine did not have that piece. That's for the ABS line. I did not get the correct, there's the ABS line. I did not get the correct bracket. So I had to just zip tie that spot. So these are all transferable to the new bracket. I did not need all these parts that came in this kit. But because I had the new parts, I did use them in some parts, some points. That's a silicone, not regular WD-40. It's silicone version, so it's just to lubricate these to make them easier to get in. Transferring the push pins. Luckily, there is still a spot to mount the ABS button. Just showing how I'm stacking the spring and washer for the headlight adjusting bolt. This is the new headlight. I have these brackets and everything you need that you can't reuse or that's new in the description. Same thing, lube these up so they'd slide in easier. You can probably do it dry. But all these rubber grommets, you can pull off the old headlight and the bracket that it was mounted to and use those. This is the new fender. It does need a new fender. I say no here because when I realize those holes go straight through, I hate that design. Just begging for something to fly up and break these little nipples on the headlight. This is the old fender, still on the bike. You can push out those metal inserts in the fender and put those in the new fender. This is the lower bracket for the old headlight. The new headlight does not need this bracket. So this is, you can remove the grommets off of here. I just put the bolts back in place to fill the hole. There is a plastic piece you can get that goes there. Not for sure how important it is. I'm comparing the new bolts, and they're the exact same as my old ones, so just reuse the old ones. Little Loctite. Loctite every bolt on a motorcycle. My friend's in the garage with me, so we're talking. Wiping all the dust down while it's all apart. This is the connector. Now this is how I tested it with alligator wires, alligator clips. Feel free to pause what each wire does. So I had to use a diode to get the headlight to work properly. Without a diode or a relay, the headlight will not turn on and off properly. The headlight will not switch from high beam and low beam properly. The low beam needs to stay on and the high beam needs to get added to the low beam. The old headlight is either one or the other, high or low. I have very limited wiring experience. This is probably my third or fourth wiring project ever. It was soldering anyway. Diodes are directional. I have the diode I use in the description. Make sure to research them if you're going to go this route. I'm just trying to get it to stay in place well enough for me to solder it without it moving. There's some flux. I researched about this. Just helps it bond and stick. Helps the solder stick. Kind of suck up to the exposed metal. Here I am heating it up with the soldering iron. I'm trying to get the solder to melt directly on, but it doesn't work. I end up just having to melt it on the soldering stick itself. Just let it kind of fall off. Smooth it out after. Here I am using the balls that have dropped off. Don't want to be wasteful. There is lead in solder. You shouldn't hold it with your hands. But I do because I'm frustrated and desperate. There I am just globbing it on there. You can get a soldering gun. I think this one was less than $10 from Walmart or something. Again, lots of videos on these. That's a wet paper towel I'm wiping it off on. There's also water in that little Ace bucket. Kind of some heat shrinking here just to try and separate the two sides. It's not into the world if this fails or the sides touch, but would like it not to. All that will happen is your high beam will be on with your low beam and you'll have to do it again. Shouldn't start a fire or anything, but I don't know. I'm not an electrician. So I made this heart looking thing. To the left is my failed first attempt. It was nasty. That was without flux paste. I'm now putting a little wire around it all and twist tying it to tighten it down. Again, just trying to keep moisture and contaminants out of the diode solder section. I depinned that old connector. I ended up having to use it. I bought a new connector I was going to try and use, and that didn't work. I later figured out what the correct piece was, but I ended up having to use my original one and repin the pieces back in. So you do not need to depin the connector to do this. Alright, because I failed, I had much less wire to work with on my bike. So I'm doing spade connectors. So if and when I fail again, in the future I can just unplug my messed up section and then plug in the new one. So female side on the bike, male side here on my diode setup. Probably doesn't really matter. Plug them all in. I'm not for sure if you're supposed to do this, but I then heat shrink those, which is very tough, setting everything on fire underneath. So be careful. If you have a heat gun with a accuracy attachment, that'd be much better. Something to funnel it, make it more accurate. Wrapping it all in electrical tape. I would research something better. I'm sure this electrical tape will get brittle and crack over the years. Now I have a super long connection. Testing it, works. Now you have to figure out how this spaghetti all goes back in there. All the clips are in different spots. If you try to match those, I didn't. I did originally, but I ended up giving up in that area. I think the wiring harness is just a different layout on the newer version of this bike, or the Australian and Thailand version. So you kind of just have to jam it all up in there and figure out what works. Zip tie it off. Use OEM clips when you can for peace of mind. Here's some photos of what I ended up doing. What worked for me. Make sure to rotate your bike often while you're doing this to make sure nothing gets snagged or pinched. Alright, this is for the turn signals. They're on the triple clamp brackets. Or they're brackets that go on the triple clamps. I'm installing the red part. The red part is a aftermarket handguard protector holder. I thought it would work for me, but the angle actually didn't work for my setup. The levers were too exposed, so more Loctite. But you can just use the OEM bolts that are already on your bike. It'll still work with the bracket. These are aftermarket bolts I'm using here, but I ended up taking these off and switching to the OEM stuff. Alright, getting the turn signals ready. This is from TST Industries. They have plug-and-play connectors, so you can keep the daytime running functionality of the turn signals if you care about that or need that. Without those connectors, your turn signals will, your aftermarket turn signals will only work when you're signaling. They won't stay running as intended for this bike. I didn't use OEM Honda turn signals just to save some money. This is an expensive kit. So in the end, I had to buy all these connectors. I don't even know if I did save money. Probably not. Also wanted low profile turn signals because I always drop and break turn signals on my bikes. Trying to see if I can reuse this rubber boot just for some OEM look and some protection. It kind of worked. Again, this is all so fast, so YouTube has a setting where you can slow the speed down. So all the TST products come with these connectors. You can just plug into each other, match the colors. Here I am testing. With LED turn signals, you do need to install a relay. Otherwise, your signals will hyperflash. TST also sells a relay. I'm sure there's other brands. Very easy to install. It is not featured in this video. Now I'm just sliding the rubber boots over all the connections. Electrical tape. Just another layer for dust and water to have to get through. Seeing how it all fits. Just 2 bolts to screw in instead of 4. And we're done.
I don't want to drop. No.